The last few days were nothing special. After we finished repairing the damages from our little encounter with the pirates, we had no issues along the way to Ganymede. Space Navy Intelligence, the SNI, sent me a report about Captain Bargester. It appears he is part of an organization that calls itself the Free Space League. The goals are not clear, since every member seems to follow their own ideas. But they are attacking the same targets: fuel and weapon transports, Space Navy outposts, and governmental shuttles, thereby disturbing Sol's general stability. On my last ship, where I served as commander, we had an issue at an outpost, but I was not involved in the details. Now I finally see the reports that it was the same group. One advantage to being captain is the background information you get to see. As a commanding officer, you need to make the right decisions, and therefore, you need the most data you can get. However, you can't tell anybody else what you know, and that creates a feeling of loneliness on board. It's only been 2 days, and there are already things that I can't speak about with my crew. I will need to talk to some fellow captains to exchange some thoughts. The SNS Gulliver is docked at Jupiter 3, another frigate, a little smaller like ours. Maybe there is a chance to exchange some thoughts. I can't help but admire this beautiful ship. With the Astraea, the engineers try to bring not only function, but also some form to the Space Navy. With a crew of 300 women and men and an additional space for another 100 people, the Astraea is already a heavy frigate. It is capable of tasks like first strikes due to its railgun and missions like save and rescue or search and destroy. We are ready for anything. Building such a huge ship for space travel is not that easy. Crew quarters are used in shift operations to save room for other equipment. The only reserved bedrooms are there for higher officers. Lower officer ranks get their own beds, but they have to share rooms. Enlisted crew members share their bed with another person and they work 12-hour shifts. This ensures there is always a minimum of 120 spacemen working. The corridors are just big enough to have 3 people walking by each other when they pull in their bellies. There is a machine room, bridge, crew quarters, weapon utility rooms, armories, laboratories, a hangar with 1 landing vehicle, a computer core, a med bay, kitchens, dining areas, a small conference room, civilian quarters, temporarily empty, and 2 recreation areas with access to media, a gym, and some games. That's about it. There is not too much else to do other than operating the spacecraft. But nobody is here because they like to spend their time playing VR games. It's almost 1400 UTC. We use UTC on all Space Navy ships since our center of command is located in Kumasi, Ghana. It is a nice place to live. It is slightly too humid but has a wonderful landscape. I must show up on the bridge, so I leave my quarter after storing the reports about the Free Space League. We still have about 2 hours until we reach Jupiter 3 station, so I asked Chief Orochenko to set up a practice alarm. Last time, we were surprised very early on. Some stations could have reacted faster, and that's why we will keep on practicing until everyone knows exactly what to do. When I enter the bridge, Commander Nishimura is checking all relevant systems. She notices me first. Captain on deck! Thank you, Commander. What's our status? All systems are nominal. We're currently fine-tuning the engines to match fuel consumption levels, which are about 2% off. Nothing makes me happier than the drive to be the best. Commander Nishimura shares that feeling with me, and this will ensure the Astraea will operate at the highest standards. The alarm goes off 2 minutes earlier than scheduled. While I take my seat on the bridge and give first commands, the crew prepares for an attack. The alarm is indicating a military threat. Security is being equipped at the armories, and then at the boarding ramps, the machine room, and the bridge. Non-combatants are leaving their positions and gathering at secure zones. The med bay is being manned with paramedics. The 2 doctors will arrive with the scientists later. Meanwhile, on the bridge. Lieutenant Simmons, report. The comms officer replies. All stations are manned, non-essential personnel are safe, full combat mode. Commander Snyder. The weapons officer is calm, as always. Weapons ready, sensors online, defenses are fully functional. Yui? I started calling her by her first name since she thinks it's faster. What do you think? Could have been faster. The security teams took a little while longer than expected. Should we deactivate the alarm? Yes, please go on. The alarm dies. That maneuver practice took about 5 minutes. Reports and analyses will lead to better results in the future. The security timings can be optimized by dynamic allocations of spacemen to the nearby armory. That's something Lieutenant Reggio Kwambo has to elaborate on. He's the officer in charge of security and combat units. I have a special task for him later, so we can talk about everything. Reggie and Chief Orochenko, are a good team. They'll work something out. I make that note on my panel and move on with reading the rest of the incoming reports. We are arriving at Ganymede, one of Jupiter's moons. Although it's a moon, Ganymede is about 1/3 the size of Earth. Jupiter 3 station is one of the largest outposts in this system, but it is still tiny compared to this celestial body. The locals call Jupiter 3 the Galileo Station, since Galileo Galilei is credited with the discovery of Ganymede on January 7th, 1610, more than 700 years ago, through a piece of glass and metal, and now people are building structures on it. What would he think of that? Galileo Station has everything you need. Hydroponic farms, where most of the food for the station further away from Earth is being produced, housing complexes for the 10,000 long-time residents, and hundreds more for visitors, scientific laboratories for geological, biological, astronomical, and more studies, and landing pads for spacecraft. The gravity of just 0.146 g and no atmosphere makes it easy for them to land. Galileo Station is for the most part a civilian complex, but it is used by the Space Navy for refueling and restocking food. Therefore, it has landing pads that suit up to Goliath-class ships. These heavy cruisers are rare and operate around Venus, Earth, and Mars, but if they need to fly that far outwards, they can stop at Ganymede. Approaching landing pad 04, we see the SNS Gulliver at landing pad 03. The light Osiris-class frigate with 150 spacemen on board is commanded by Captain Lance Adrock, an experienced Navy officer who never wanted to fly something bigger because he likes to be in touch with every crew member. Before we have some leisure time, there's a lot to organize. At every possible station we have to refuel and restock commodities, even if it's just a bit. Chief Kuipers will oversee the restocking. He's the quartermaster in charge at the moment, since Chief Orchenko has a different task. One special opportunity on Galileo Station is an outdoor, low-gravity, no-atmosphere combat practice area. I gave Lieutenant Okwambo the order to take his ground troops and do some combat practice. Chief Orchenko will lead one group. The area is north of the hydroponic farms and is the only restricted area for civilians on this moon, since it's regularly in use. Station communication told me that the scientists need some more time before they can board the ship. They have an experiment going and need to finish it first. Something about geological tests. I know that I can't give them the order to stop it, so we can continue our mission. They are not military personnel, but I can take a look at what they are doing. The laboratories are next to the hydroponics. They combine a lot of scientific research in one place, biology being one of them. That's why they are located very centrally in this complex. The laboratory building is the most noticeable building on Ganymede. It is covered half in glass, half with sensor arrays, antenna dishes and other moving assets. Next to the low domes of the hydroponics, it stands out even more. Every building is connected through glass tubes with conveyor belts made to transport people. For safety reasons, every building has to have some clear area around it in case of explosions, fires, or other threats. For the same reason, the structures are built with multiple connections to provide escape ways. I make my way from the landing pad to the cargo bay, then to the center building, which is like a town center with many stores, restaurants, beautiful flora, and even a small park, and I head to the laboratory building. Every conveyor tube ride is amazing. Watching the surface and distant stars you see on Ganymede is so surreal. Yes, I know, being a Space Navy captain, you get to see the beauty of space all the time, but on a celestial body, it's just different. And there's this massive gas giant watching over you. Jupiter is so close that it feels like you could just fly over in a minute. Mr. Galileo would have loved that. The laboratory, where 4 of my new crew members are still working, is located underground. I learned that it's just this group of geologists that need more time. The rest of the crew is already boarding and hauling their equipment. The senior scientist here is Dr. Stephen Amended. When I entered the room, he recognized me immediately. Ah, Captain Collins, nice to meet you. Sorry that it took a little longer than we thought it would, but we are in the last stages of this test. Hello, Dr. Amended. What an interesting laboratory. You mind telling me what you're working on that keeps my ship and crew waiting? Oh yeah, of course. Please take a seat and I'll tell you right away. We just need to make sure all parameters are okay. I sit down next to the group and watch them looking seriously at their screens. The laboratory is well equipped. A bunch of machines are waiting to be used, but everything is clinically clean. After a while, the scientists turn to me. So, all preparations are done. We're ready to start the mining drone. Before we do that, I can explain to you what we're doing and why it's so important that everyone has to wait because of us. We have a mining drone deployed, which started to dig into Ganymede. 3 decks underneath, there is an entry point we are using to deploy these kinds of drones. They are fascinating. They use the same alloy the Astraea will use for the ray gun to dig into the ground. With spinning arms, they can rotate 180 degrees in every direction with a torque of... Please, Doctor, cut the details for me. Why is this drilling important? Yeah, right. Always to the point for the military. Do I sense some resentment? Could it also just be the fact that I'm not into specific details and more worried about leaving late? Okay, to make it quick, we might have found water. This is huge. If we can detect water underneath the surface, other teams can move on with the data and search more places for the same indicators. Water on Ganymede. That would change a lot of deep space flights out here. Now you understand the importance. The data will not only benefit Ganymede, but we can use it in our mission to find more water on other moons. Water inside of a moon. That could be a game changer. At the moment, all spaceflight relies on water from Earth. It's not too much of a problem since humanity developed enough tech around using ocean water, and that solved almost all water problems around the globe, with plenty to take to other planets. But as with all resources, they are limited. To find more at other locations is also part of our mission. Water usage on Earth isn't much of a problem, but bringing it to space reduces its availability on Earth forever. As with fossil fuels a few hundred years ago, that is not sustainable. Stephen Amended turns to his team. Okay, then let's proceed with the last stage. Power nominal. All systems running. Mining drills ready. Amended says. Sensors are online and we're receiving a clear signal. So far, no trace of water, but indicators are there. Move slowly forward. Minutes go by and the geologists are laser focused. I roam around a little and take a look at the various pieces of rocks laying on shelves, representing specific layers of minerals on Ganymede. Some are cut into half, and you can see the shimmering metallic elements in them. Most of them are black or grey, just like the surface on this moon. Since there's no running water to smooth them, they are spiky and rough. A few of them are laying in perfect order on a laboratory bench. One of them has a dark red color. I reach out to pick one up. Doctor! The scientist hectically types commands into the computer. Something's not right here. We have an interesting but serious situation here, Captain. We hit a highly dense rock formation and increased the force on the mining drills. And what caused this alarm? The sirens are still running, loud enough to be annoying after some time. But the drills stopped working because there is... He's shaking his head. This can't be... Gas! There's a gas leak coming from in front of the drill. The sensors are indicating flowing gas. How is that? A seismic shock hits the structure and a few glasses drop to the ground. It is the perfect time to notice that Galileo Station has got an artificial gravitation foundation, raising the gravity to about 0.7 G. Captain, are there any of your Marines on the drill ground? Yes, we have a practice out there with... Evacuate them immediately! Lieutenant Reggio Combo gathers the security personnel and the few Marines the Astraea has on board, a total of 30 crew members. Before entering the combat zone, they are forming groups in a surreal area. As mentioned before, the next structure to the drill ground is the hydroponics bay, so the spacemen stand at a gathering spot in the middle of a garden. Lieutenant Ocombo is leading the Marines and Chief Orochenko will command the security for this practice. For the first combat practice of these groups together, they agree on a more fun activity, a game of capture the flag. While the security will have to defend the flag, the Marines need to infiltrate and capture the flag. It takes some time to set up the flag base, that's why the first group is moving out first, picking a spot and setting up some light fortifications. The Marines will do some weapon drills in the meantime. Weapon handling under different circumstances is an essential skill, and training in combat spacesuit is not possible too often on a spacecraft. The Marines have black-gray combat suits that are very flexible and capable of 4 hours of operating time before they need new oxygen. With an additional supply container, it's even possible to operate for more than 24 hours. The security team is equipped with standard spacesuits in white. To provide a longer operating time, they have a supply station. Otherwise, their suits would only allow 2 hours of operations. The flag base is done after an hour, and Chief Orochenko sets up some traps with his team. They find a good position with some big boulders blocking one side of the cab. The chief has some laser-triggered traps from wherever he manages to get them from. He has a lot of connections throughout the solar system. These training traps are definitely not part of Astraea's equipment. With them being placed around the boulders, most entrances are secured and the team is focused on building a fortification about 10 meters away from the flag. That way, the team can center their forces at one spot and will not be overrun. On a spaceship, they will use this method to secure vital parts, like the bridge or the machine room. Though, since the terrain is mainly open, Chief Rodchenko designated 2 of his guards as marksmen about 50 meters away to keep a lookout. Lieutenant Oquembo has gone through weapon drills with his Marines. First, they disassemble their sidearm, a projectile pistol mainly used by military personnel, and then their close-quarter assault rifle for infiltration covert ops. They repeat the procedure while standing, laying on the ground, and then laying on their belly. No piece may touch the ground during the disassemble and reassemble. After that, they check their equipment and wait for the start signal, which is given over the radio.
Go.
The Marines split up in 2 groups, one searching higher ground for reconnaissance, the other advancing forward through open terrain. Without additional equipment like sensors, they have to rely on visuals. All weapons are set to practice mode, without ammunition. The suits will indicate hits and give orders on how to behave. While Oquembo is slowly advancing, 2 other Marines find a good spot to search the area. Hey, Kashi. They are only using nicknames while on an operation. Look, there's the camp. Yep, got him. Scan the area for traps or sharpshooters, Flotty. Aiming down sight, the Marine visually scans the area. The main fortification is easily visible from here, but the other guards are not that easy to spot. One of them makes a move and is seen. I see 1 guard on high ground, possibly more around. Let's meet with the others and tell them. The other group also makes contact with the camp. Reggie decides to split and surround them from the direction of the boulder. They should be able to get closer without being seen. Meanwhile, one of the guards spots movement. The guard uses a short-range radio.
Chief, we have a group incoming. They seem to have split up and are trying to surround us.
Good. Change your position if you lose contact, but let them run into our surprise. Still, no shots, and the practice has been going on for an hour. Reggie and his Marines are advancing from the eastern side and are now close to the rocks. No communication is allowed, just hand signals. Lieutenant Oquembo steps into the first trap. At the same time, the seismic shock reaches the training ground. Chief, what kind of traps are these? That is not only my trap, something is wrong here, says the chief while the ground is rumbling. He opens the channel. Lieutenant Beats here. What happened?
No idea, Chief, but we should leave.
A Marine says, Sir, the recon team is coming. There's gas. Oquembo turns around and sees his 2-man recon team about 200 meters away. A crack opens the ground and white gas flows out of the opening. What the hell? Captain Collins to away team, please respond. I try to get into contact with the team while the sirens are starting to howl. This is serious. A gas leak with a lot of pressure next to Galileo Station. The scientists believe it's a big gas bubble now that they can indicate the signs.
Captain, Chief Rodchenko here.
Chief, order your people to leave the area ASAP. It's too dangerous to stay there.
Copy that.
The recon team stops when they see the cracks. Gas is now blocking the way to Lieutenant Oquembo and the other Marines. They decide to turn around and find another route. The lieutenant tells them they just got word to leave the area. They know it's because of that gas leak. What else could it be? The best direction would be away from the leak in a straight line, but that is a mistake. Another scientist said, Sir, the leak is getting bigger. Since the gas started to flow, there has been a constant shaking noticeable. The sirens are still howling, the hydroponics bay is almost evacuated, and most of the connecting tubes are sealed. The inner building has got the best chances to provide shelter against any accidents. That's where people are now gathering. Although the leak expands, the shaking suddenly stops. Lieutenant Oquembo, leading his Marines away and back to the structure, turns around to see the gas flow cease. The recon team notices it too, thinking maybe it's the chance to turn around. I asked Dr. Amendit, the rumble stopped, what's going on? Either the leak sealed itself or... A shockwave hits the building. The lieutenant and his Marines, like the chief and the security guards, are thrown to the ground by the shockwave. Instinctively, Reggie looks to his 2 recon Marines with a bad feeling. The next moment, the ground erupts under the feet of Kashi and Flotty. Gas, stones, and the 2 Marines are catapulted into space. The complete gas bubble rips open and shoots everything above it into the void. A crater with a radius of 100 meters forms. The larger boulders are dropping down in the vicinity. The Marines are running as fast as possible, knowing they can't do much for their mates if they get hit. All around the explosion debris is falling down. The Marines are drifting away further. Lieutenant, report! While Galileo Station is shaking from the explosion, Glass is shattering and things are falling down. During this brief moment of chaos, my only thoughts are with the away team. They are in the open, next to the explosion.
Captain, 2 Marines are in space. No contact. The rest are safe.
The chief and his team are closer to the building. They find a bunker.
Chief here. We made it to the shelter. No casualties.
Okay. Astraea, Captain Collins here. Commander, you're on board? Report. Commander Nishimura answers. Yes, sir. We registered a gas explosion and 2 of our men were shot into orbit. Life signs indicate a shock, but they are alive. The shuttle from Ganymede is on its way to pick them up. Good. That's good. Keep the scanners on our men. Keep me updated. Chief Orochenko and the security team find a bunker located in the training area. It is used as a command post for observation during test scenarios. They saw the eruption through the windows and are guiding the Marines to the bunker too. Who knows if there will be more explosions, and before the situation is clear, they stay safe that way. While keeping an eye out for the others, the chief registers something on the window. He takes a closer look. Does that look like a snowflake? He tries to swipe it away, but the crystal won't go away. It's outside, and it's water. The 2 Marines are picked up and brought back to the SNS Astraea. After the scientists analyze the data at first glance, they share the results with the other geological teams, so they can search for more water on Ganymede. What a finding! The eruption releases some traces of frozen water, which sublimated into gas and refroze on dark surfaces to ice. This data will be extremely useful for the search for water on other moons. All personnel board the Astraea about 2 days later than expected due to this event. I am waiting in my quarters for the last crew members to finish maintenance. There is something I like to do to get my head clear and relax a little. Sorting coffee beans. Really, I rarely meet someone who does that, but for me, my coffee has to be perfect. Every cracked bean, some with burnings, holes from worms and other imperfect spots will be sorted out and a unique pile of beans will remain. At least the coffee in my own room is perfect that way. Man, what a trip. The Gulliver! I totally forgot to speak to Captain Atarok. Well, now they are gone. They left after the incident. But hey, things turned out to be quite simple. As a captain, you always need to care about your crew. Even if you can't tell them everything, there's enough left to share, and that is what a commanding officer should focus on. You must do the things you think you cannot do, said an awesome woman once. I think we can keep it that way. For a moment, all thoughts are gone, and I'm staring out the window and see the construction crews working on some minor damages at Galileo Station. We found water here. Who could have predicted that? The comms opens. Captain, we're ready to leave the station. I'm on my way. I leave my room. It smells like coffee. What a nice aroma. Thank you everyone for listening to this episode. This was episode 2 of Astraea, a new Space Operations Delta novel. Thank you so much for listening to it. You can read all the episodes on spaceoperationsdelta.com, and there are more ways to support this channel. So don't forget to subscribe to wherever you're listening to this, and we'll see us next month. Thank you so much, and take care.